Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've just finished going through a set of sources that they're basically a single unified instruction manual.
Right, for
Yeah.
achieving this really deep personal and even social transformation.
Exactly. We're diving into this incredibly detailed guide to Gayatri Satana. That's the practice of chanting the Gayatri mantra and the fire ceremony that goes with it, known as yagya.
And it is a fascinating body of work. I think for you, the listener, the mission today is to really get why this guide is so exhaustive. It's not just, a suggestion for prayer.
No, not at all.
It is a prescriptive blueprint, and it's designed to change the individual from the inside out. We're going to unpack the philosophy, the whole goal of a pure intellect, and then the surprisingly specific mechanics for how to get there.
It really is a full stack system. I mean, the sources have rules for everything from metaphysical energy management all the way to ethical social conduct. It's a clear path.
Absolutely. And we're going to focus on two core threads. First, the incredible power that's attributed to the Gayatri mantra for spiritual self-renewal. They call it atmic rejuvenation.
Okay.
And second, the really rigid, physical, and highly organized ethical structure, the rules that are, necessary to harness that energy and actually apply it in the real world.
Okay, so let's start there with that ultimate objective. If someone commits to this level of discipline every day, what's the core return? I mean, what does Gayatri Japa actually promise?
It promises a foundational reordering of the self. Sincere chanting, or japa, is explicitly stated as the engine for that spiritual transformation.
The engine, okay.
The sources claim it systematically eliminates negative qualities, so
Yeah.
things like selfishness, greed, doubt, and it fosters the growth of virtuous elements. These are referred to as sattvaguni tattvas.
So this isn't just a practice for, a moment of peace. It's designed to fundamentally change your entire disposition.
Precisely. And this internal shift is meant to create the emergence of wisdom, or vivek, and foresight. The practical outcome of that, according to the sources, is eliminating the kind of suffering that's almost always born from ignorance.
I see.
It culminates in cultivating this inner strength, atmabal, and a firm devotion, shraddha, which allows the practitioner to face life's difficulties with complete equanimity.
A lot of people, they seek out spiritual practices hoping for worldly success or protection from bad things happening. Do the sources talk about that?
They do, but they really downplay it. The sources are clear that while the practice does grant protection and might lead to worldly benefits, those are just secondary byproducts.
Yes, side effects.
Exactly. The core purpose is guiding your mind, your senses, and your intellect toward good conduct and what they call true humanity. If the inside is pure, the outside just sort of falls into line.
That really reframes the whole thing. So if we had to distill it down, what's the single greatest success a practitioner can aim for?
The principal function is increasing truthfulness, or sattva, and achieving a pure, clear intellect. It's called Shuddha Buddhi.
Shuddha Buddhi.
And this pure intellect is seen as the greatest success in life. Why? Because it lets the individual always walk the path of virtue and make correct, impartial choices.
I have to ask, because this is where it gets real, how does someone actually know they've achieved this Shuddha Buddhi? What does that person look like day to day?
That's a great question. And the answer is really rooted in behavior. The sources imply that the outward sign of Shuddha Buddhi is this unwavering ethical consistency. You're just not swayed by temptation or fear.
So it's about your actions.
It is. The person shows discretion, vivek, in every single decision. They demonstrate self-control, patience, honesty, even when it's, a disadvantage to them personally.
Okay, so now that we get the grand objective, this pure intellect, we see this fascinating pivot in the source material. It goes from this high philosophy straight to these incredibly strict, almost military-grade daily protocols. So if Shuddha Buddhi is the goal, let's move to the sadhana, the disciplined path required to get there.
The level of detail is just astonishing. It leaves nothing to chance. For example, your attire. It has to be light, loose, and crucially, freshly washed. Physical purity is a prerequisite for mental focus.
And the physical setup isn't negotiable either. You mentioned a specific posture, Plathi, sitting cross-legged, spine straight. But there's this one standout rule that connects the spiritual effort directly to physical mechanics. Tell us about the mat.
Yes, this is one of the most surprising parts. You must never, ever sit directly on the bare ground. You have to use a mat made of grass or leaves or even just a simple cloth, something for insulation.
Insulation. Why that level of technical specificity? Why is a simple mat so critical?
The explanation is all framed in terms of energy. The sources say that the concentrated effort of the sadhana generates a kind of subtle bodily electricity.
Like a biological circuit?
Exactly. If you sit on the ground, that energy just dissipates into the earth, it grounds out, and the effort is less efficient. The mat acts as an insulator, keeping that spiritual energy inside the body.
That's basically ancient energy conservation. Okay, what about the schedule? In our modern, frantic world, can you just squeeze this into a lunch break?
Absolutely not. Timing is paramount, and it has to be fixed daily. Irregularity is heavily discouraged because that consistency builds the necessary mental groove.
And there's an optimal time, right?
Yes. Brahma Muhurta, which is that early morning period about 2 hours before sunrise or within 2 hours of sunrise or sunset. But the chosen time and place have to stay constant.
The location needs to be secluded, fresh air gardens, temples, riverbanks. The environment has to support the internal effort.
It has to. And for the chanting itself, the minimum is 1 mala a day, so 108 repetitions. But here's the really nuanced part. Your lips, tongue, and throat should move, but the sound has to be so faint that a person sitting right next to you can't clearly hear the words.
That is a phenomenal constraint. Why enforce the physical movement but without the audible sound? What does that do?
It's about balancing effort and internalization. By moving your lips, you keep the physical body focused on the task, preventing distraction. But by keeping the sound internal, you force the mind to grasp the meaning and the vibration of the mantra on a much deeper level.
Focused, internalized articulation. Okay.
Exactly.
That makes the focus incredibly intense. But, life happens. What if you get interrupted, for something necessary?
The source is pretty pragmatic about that. If you're interrupted and you have to step away, when you come back, you must wash your hands and face, and then you perform 1 extra mala as an atonement for the break in concentration.
A built-in penance system. That's like the ancient world's version of habit gamification.
Sure.
A small penalty for breaking the flow.
It works perfectly to emphasize persistence, or druta. And for really major disruptions, like serious illness, travel, or ritual impurity from a birth or death in the family, the practice is adapted, not abandoned. You do mental chanting, manasic japa.
I see.
The physical part is skipped, but the internal focus continues.
All right, let's get into the structured sequence of the daily ritual, the pasadi. Before the actual chanting begins, the source lays out this whole systematic preparation. What's the philosophy there?
The source really stresses that the pavana, so the feeling and the intent behind the acts, is way more important than the physical action itself. You're setting the stage, mentally and energetically, before you even start chanting.
So you start with cleansing, pavitra sprinkling water, and then ahmanam, sipping water 3 times. How does sipping water purify your speech, mind, and consciousness?
Well, the physical act is just a trigger for the intention. Sipping water represents a commitment to internal purification. The source links the first sip to a commitment to speak the truth, the second to thinking pure thoughts, and the third to maintaining integrity in your actions.
So it's a vow.
It's an immediate, conscious vow of ethical alignment before you even begin.
A foundational reordering. Okay, and then that's followed by energy management, pranayama, regulated breathing.
Exactly. This is where you harness that energy we talked about. The visualization is key. As you inhale, you imagine drawing in divine energy and purity. As you exhale, you visualize releasing all the negative elements, tension, impurities.
After that.
Then comes nyasa, where you touch various parts of your body, your face, eyes, arms, while invoking divinity. It's a deliberate check, establishing purity in every organ that will participate.
So once you're purified, you get to the core worship, Dev Pujan, which involves the Panchopchar, or 5 offerings. This is where the symbolism really gets deep.
It really does. These are physical offerings that directly symbolize ethical mandates for you, the practitioner. Water, the first offering, symbolizes humility.
Okay.
The offering of sandalwood or rice, that symbolizes joy and inner bliss. You're offering your happiest state. The lamp and incense symbolize distributing fragrance and light, a commitment to spreading knowledge and goodness, not just keeping it for yourself.
And the last one, the food.
The naivedya, the offering of food or sweets. And this symbolizes the commitment to developing sweetness and gentleness in your own personal behavior.
That is a profound connection. You're not just offering a thing. You're making an internalized pledge that the sweetness you offer has to be reflected in how you treat other people.
Precisely. And after all that extensive prep, the practitioner does the quiet japa for at least 15 minutes, which is meant to wash away sins and solidify focus. This is immediately followed by dhyana, or meditation.
What's the focus during the dhyana part?
It's flexible, but it's very concentrated. You can focus on the central meaning of the mantra, that divine inspiration purifies the intellect, or you can meditate on the divine mother figure, Gayatri, and visualize her love filling you. Another option is to visualize the golden rays of the sun, Savita, purifying your body.
We've just laid out this robust system for individual transformation, but then the source material immediately pivots to the collective. Let's move to yagya, or havan, the fire ritual. Why is this necessary?
Well, the sources define yagya as the necessary outward expression of that interchange. If you have Shuddha-buddhi, you must engage with the world ethically. Yagya is defined by three essential meanings.
Okay, what are they?
1, dev puja, which is worship.
Yeah.
2, dayan, which is charity or contribution. And 3, sangatikaran, organization and unification.
So it's a social system disguised as a ritual. The act of yaga is collective organization, but why the fire? Why not just, have a community meeting?
The philosophy is that isolating yourself actually weakens the entire effort. The sources assert that the true benefit of yagya, which is to promote world peace and welfare, is only achieved through public cooperation, yan sayog. The fire ritual is the physical manifestation of that. Everyone brings offerings, everyone participates, and the benefits, like a purified atmosphere, are shared by all.
So the havan itself is the vehicle for spreading these valuable aromatic and medicinal substances, herbs, ghee, twigs through fire and air to purify the environment. It links the spiritual ideal of unity to the tangible act of communal environmental health.
Absolutely. The fire is the delivery system for collective good. The sequence is pretty straightforward. You establish the fire, agitapanam, you offer small twigs and ghee. The main offerings, agyahudi, are made to deities, followed by the core oblations using the Gayatri mantra itself.
And how does it end?
It concludes with a final offering, purnahoti, and then applying the resultant ash, basmadaranam, to the body as a kind of blessing.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. Once the practitioner has established this internal purity and practiced collective action through yagya, the sources culminate in this concrete 17-point ethical blueprint for society. It's called the Yug Nirman Sankalp, the pledge for a new era.
This is the practical handbook for living with Shuddha-buddhi. It proves the entire purpose of the ritual system is external conduct.
It starts with some high-level concepts, right?
Yes, accepting God as omnipresent and just, but then it quickly moves into these sharp, very modern-sounding ethical principles.
Okay, so out of these 17 points, which one feels like the hardest bar to clear in today's world?
I would say one of the most demanding is the mandate to prioritize ethical failure over gaining success unethically.
Wow.
I mean, think about that. Consciously choosing to fail a business deal or a negotiation if the only way to succeed is through dishonest means. The source elevates integrity above every form of worldly gain.
That sets an impossibly high standard for ambition.
It does, but it's consistent with the whole goal of truthfulness. And what's more, the pledge instructs you to judge people based only on their good thoughts and actions, not their status or their wealth or what they've achieved.
A radical demand for character judgment over material metrics.
Right. And the pledge moves way beyond just personal morality into an explicit code for building an equitable society. It mandates promoting national unity and equality and fiercely rejecting discrimination based on caste, gender, language, or region.
That commitment to absolute social equality is explicit. It's not a suggestion. It ties your own spiritual transformation directly to your responsibility to the entire community.
Yes, the pledge is basically a promise to live by the golden rule. Don't treat others in a way you dislike being treated yourself. And the core belief that underwrites the whole thing is the idea. We will change, the age will change.
So what does this all mean? We started with the mantra, we moved through this incredibly disciplined energy work, and we've arrived at a comprehensive social movement laid out in 17 specific points.
Well, the core finding is that the source material presents a completely integrated closed-loop system. The detailed, seemingly simple rituals, the posture, the mat, the meaning of the 5 offerings, they're all just tools.
Right.
They lead directly to inner transformation, to Shuddha-buddhi, but that transformation is utterly incomplete unless it manifests outwardly as concrete ethical behavior and social responsibility, as spelled out in the Yug Nirman Sankalp.
It's the ultimate ritualized path to ethical citizenship, designed to enforce a specific quality of being.
And that quality is vivek, discretion, or prudence. The source explicitly advises that vivek should always be given importance over blind adherence to any tradition. The system is designed to create thinkers, not robots.
A final thought for our listener, then.
Right. The question for you, the listener, is this. In an age where prescriptive paths, spiritual, dietary, political, are constantly vying for your attention, how do you actively cultivate and apply that critical discretion to make sure you are following true wisdom and not just, a convenient ritual?